Chapter 1. The Invitation. The envelope was thick, its texture almost tactile through the layers of anticipation. It arrived unannounced, a stark, black blotch against the pristine white of the doormat. No return address, no sender's name, just the weight of it, a promise of something unknown, unwelcome perhaps. Inside, a single sheet of paper, smooth as glass, filled the space. The script was elegant, yet alien, as if etched by a hand unfamiliar with human language. It was an invitation, a command, a summons. A date was inscribed, a place, a time. Nothing more, nothing less. Days turned into a relentless countdown. The house, once a sanctuary, became a mausoleum of silence. Shadows danced in exaggerated patterns, their movements erratic, almost sentient. The once familiar creaks of the old house transformed into sinister symphonies, each sound a discordant note in the escalating hysteria. Sleep, a fickle friend, retreated, replaced by vivid dreams, or rather, nightmares. Faces, distorted and grotesque, emerged from the abyss, their eyes burning with an inhuman intensity. A cold dread crept into the bones, a constant companion, a chilling reminder of the impending doom. The day arrived, a bleak, overcast mirror of the soul. The destination, a remote, forsaken cabin, nestled deep within an ancient forest. The journey was a pilgrimage through a world growing increasingly hostile. The trees, once comforting giants, now stood as silent sentinels, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. The cabin, a wooden husk against the encroaching wilderness, was a place of shadows and secrets. A forgotten relic, it seemed to harbor its own sinister history. As the first rays of dusk painted the sky in hues of crimson and gold, a sense of impending dread thickened the air. The stage was set, the actors assembled, the curtain about to rise on a performance of unimaginable horror. Chapter 2. The Gathering. The cabin was a womb of darkness, its interior a cavernous void punctuated by the erratic flicker of candlelight. One by one, they arrived, shadows birthed from the encroaching night. Each figure, a silhouette against the window panes, bore the same chilling anonymity. They moved with a silent, predatory grace, their eyes twin beacons in the gloom. The air crackled with an unseen tension, a palpable energy that thrummed like a heartbeat. The cabin, once a solitary structure, was now a hive, a collective consciousness humming with an otherworldly frequency. As the hours bled into one another, the atmosphere thickened, a cloying miasma of fear and anticipation. Strange symbols, etched in an unknown script, appeared on the walls, growing like parasitic vines. A chilling chant, a wordless incantation, began to rise, a haunting melody carried by the wind. The scent of decay mingled with the acrid tang of something unfamiliar, a perfume of the abyss. The floorboards groaned beneath unseen pressures, as if the cabin itself were a living entity, caught in the throes of a monstrous transformation. Outside, the forest seemed to close in, its silhouette pressing against the cabin like a suffocating embrace. The wind howled, a mournful dirge that carried the promise of unspeakable horrors. And as the first light of dawn began to pierce the darkness, a sense of dread, absolute and consuming, settled over the gathering. Chapter 3. The Descent. The ground swallowed them whole. A yawning maw in the earth, a black hole promising oblivion. Descend they did, into the bowels of the world, a claustrophobic journey into the unknown. The air grew heavy, thick with the scent of decay and damp earth. The beam of the flashlight, a feeble counterpoint to the encroaching darkness, revealed a world stripped of color, a monochromatic nightmare. The passageway twisted and turned, a labyrinthine maze with no end in sight. The silence was absolute, broken only by the echo of their own ragged breaths and the distant drip of water. The walls seemed to close in, pressing against them with an unseen force. Fear, a tangible entity, crept into their hearts, a cold, insidious parasite. With each step, the temperature dropped, a chilling descent into a frozen underworld. The air grew thinner, the oxygen a precious commodity. Panic, a silent scream, clawed at their minds as the walls began to close in, a suffocating embrace. Strange symbols, etched into the rock face, seemed to glow with an inner light, their meaning lost in the depths of time. A low, guttural sound, a distant growl, echoed through the tunnels, a chilling prelude to the horrors that awaited. The ground beneath them trembled, a seismic disturbance that sent shockwaves through their bodies. The very earth was alive, a monstrous entity stirring from its eternal slumber. And as the first tendrils of madness began to weave their way into their minds, they realized that the descent was merely the beginning. Chapter 4. The Reckoning. The cavern expanded, a monstrous womb birthing horrors into the world. Walls pulsed with an unnatural light, an eerie glow that distorted shadows into grotesque caricatures. The air thickened, a tangible presence, heavy with the scent of decay and sulfur. A sound, a whisper carried on the wind, a wordless incantation that chilled the blood. The ground trembled, a seismic convulsion that shook the very foundations of the earth. Then, from the darkness, eyes emerged, twin beacons of malevolent intelligence. They were not human, these creatures, but something older, something far more sinister. Their forms shifted and changed, a grotesque ballet of metamorphosis. Limbs elongated, skin stretched taut over skeletal frames. Teeth, sharp as daggers, glinted in the unnatural light. A chorus of guttural growls filled the cavern, a cacophony of primal rage. Fear, a tangible entity, consumed them. Their minds raced, a desperate search for escape. But there was no escape, only a reckoning. The creatures advanced, their movements silent, predatory. The end was near, a cold, indifferent certainty that settled over their souls. Chapter 5. The Unveiling. A blinding light erupted, a celestial explosion within the subterranean cavern. It was a searing white, a purity so intense it burned into the retinas. The creatures, those monstrous aberrations, were consumed by the light, their forms contorted in agony before dissolving into nothingness. The cavern transformed. The rocky walls melted, reformed, revealing a colossal chamber, a cathedral of stone and shadow. At its center, a monolithic structure, a dark obelisk, stood defiant. Its surface was etched with symbols, an alien script that promised ancient knowledge and unspeakable power. A voice, a whisper carried on the wind, echoed through the chamber. It was a voice of creation and destruction, of life and death. The air pulsed with energy, a tangible force that thrummed with cosmic significance. The obelisk began to glow, a soft, ethereal light that bathed the chamber in an otherworldly radiance. A vision unfolded, a tapestry of time and space. The birth of worlds, the death of civilizations, the rise and fall of empires. It was a history of the universe, a cosmic epic written in the language of light. And at the center of it all, a single, terrifying truth. Humanity was a mere footnote, a fleeting moment in the grand scheme of existence. As the vision faded, the obelisk pulsed once more, and then silence. The cavern was still, the air heavy with the weight of revelation. They were alone, survivors of an ordeal beyond comprehension. But the knowledge they had glimpsed, the cosmic truth unveiled, would forever change them, and perhaps the world. Chapter 6. The Awakening. They emerged from the abyss, their minds fractured, their bodies bearing the invisible scars of a journey into madness. The world above was a stark contrast, a riot of color and sound after the monochromatic hell they had escaped. The sun, a blinding disk in the sky, seemed almost alien, its warmth a foreign sensation on their chilled skin. Reality was a fragile illusion, a veneer masking the cosmic horrors they had witnessed. The familiar world was now a distorted reflection, a haunted house filled with echoes of the subterranean realm. Shadows danced with sinister intent, their movements charged with unseen purpose. Time was a fluid concept, stretching and contracting at will. Days blurred into nights, a relentless cycle of insomnia and fragmented dreams. The past, a haunting specter, refused to be buried. The future, an abyss of uncertainty, filled them with dread. They were alone, truly alone. Isolation was a heavy cloak, a suffocating embrace. The world, once a bustling marketplace of humanity, was now a desolate wasteland. The familiar faces, once sources of comfort, were now strangers, their eyes holding a chilling indifference. A new awareness had been awakened within them, a dark knowledge that set them apart. They were vessels, empty husks carrying the echoes of a cosmic symphony. The world was a puzzle, its pieces scattered and incomplete, and they were the ones destined to find the missing pieces to decipher the cosmic code. But at what cost? Chapter 7. The Pursuit. They were hunted, a cold, undeniable truth that seeped into their bones. Shadows moved with purpose, their shapes elongated and menacing. Whispers carried on the wind, a sinister symphony of malice. The world, once familiar and benign, had transformed into a predator's hunting ground. The pursuit was relentless, a constant pressure, a weight that never lifted. Sleep was a luxury denied, a fleeting respite from the nightmare. Every sound was a threat, every shadow a potential enemy. Paranoia, an insidious companion, gnawed at their sanity. They fled, shadows in their own world. Cities became mazes, offering temporary sanctuary before the hunters closed in. The countryside, once a place of solace, was now a hostile wilderness. The road was a lifeline, a means of escape, but also a highway to oblivion. The fear was a tangible force, a suffocating presence. It was the fear of the unknown, of the darkness that lurked just beyond the reach of light. It was the fear of what they had seen, of the cosmic horrors that had scarred their souls. And it was the fear of what they were becoming, of the monsters they might be destined to become. The pursuit was not merely physical. It was a battle for their minds, a war against the encroaching madness. The line between hunter and hunted blurred, the boundaries of sanity fraying at the edges. They were caught in a deadly dance, a cosmic chess game where the stakes were their very souls. Chapter 8. The Confrontation. A desolate expanse of salt flats stretched to the horizon, a blinding white canvas under the indifferent sky. It was a place of extremes, a crucible of the soul. They had come here, drawn by a force they could not name, a desperate gamble against the unknown. The air was still, oppressive, heavy with a sense of impending doom. The silence was deafening, a void filled with the echoes of their own fears. The salt flats, a mirror of their own desolation, reflected a world stripped bare of hope. The confrontation was inevitable, a cosmic chess match played with the fate of humanity as the stakes. They braced themselves, their minds a fortress against the onslaught. The horizon, a distant line marking the boundary between sanity and madness, trembled. Shadows elongated, stretched by the unforgiving sunlight. They took shape, monstrous and grotesque, a legion of darkness marching across the salt flats. Their forms shifted and changed, a grotesque ballet of horror. A cacophony of guttural sounds filled the air, a chorus of malice and hatred. The battle began, a silent war fought with unseen weapons. The salt flats became a battlefield, a canvas painted with fear and desperation. The sky, once indifferent, seemed to darken, as if nature itself was holding its breath. The outcome was uncertain, a gamble on the edge of oblivion. But one thing was clear. This was the final act, the ultimate confrontation. Chapter 9. The Sacrifice. The battle was a maelstrom of chaos, a cosmic dance of destruction. The salt flats cracked and shattered, the earth convulsed beneath their feet. The creatures, monstrous and inhuman, pressed their advantage, their forms shifting and morphing in a grotesque display of power. A cold realization dawned upon them. This was not simply a battle for survival, but a cosmic ritual, a sacrifice demanded by an unseen force. They were pawns in a game of unimaginable scale, their lives mere chips in a cosmic wager. The sky darkened, a malevolent canopy that blotted out the sun. The air thickened, charged with an otherworldly energy. The creatures, emboldened, pressed their assault, their forms growing larger, more terrifying. A choice presented itself, stark and uncompromising. Surrender to the darkness, to become part of the cosmic ritual, or fight to the bitter end, a futile gesture against the inevitable. The decision was a heavy burden, a weight that crushed the soul. In a moment of clarity, a decision was made. A sacrifice, not of body but of spirit. A surrender, not to the darkness, but to a higher purpose. With a strength born of desperation, they faced the oncoming horde, their hearts filled with a strange, cold peace. Chapter 10. The Resolution. The sacrifice was complete. A blinding light erupted, consuming them in a wave of pure energy. Time ceased to exist, replaced by an eternity of consciousness. The salt flats vanished, replaced by a cosmic expanse, a canvas painted with galaxies and nebulae. They were reborn, transformed, their physical forms replaced by entities of pure energy. Knowledge, infinite and overwhelming, flooded their consciousness. The secrets of the universe, the purpose of existence, the nature of reality, all were revealed. They were guardians, protectors of a cosmic balance. Their task was to watch, to guide, to intervene when necessary. The world they had left behind was a mere speck in the grand scheme of things, a fragile oasis in a cosmic ocean. They departed, their essence dissolving into the fabric of the universe. As they faded, a final image emerged: Earth, a pale blue dot suspended in the blackness of space. A world of hope and despair, of love and hate, of life and death. A world in constant flux, a world in need of guidance. And so, they watched, their consciousness spread across the cosmos. Guardians of humanity, silent sentinels in the night. Their story was not over, merely paused, a chapter in a cosmic epic that would unfold for eternity.